Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. Let's talk about electroculture. Sounds newfangled, doesn't it? Been around since 1755. It's about using the etheric current in our atmosphere surrounding us at all times, pulling that in, magnetizing the soils. Schallberger principles. Haricot bean yields significantly different. Copper wires on poles pulled down to areas in the soil near your plants. Wine vines, not a problem either. And with this Antiquitech, do you think OpenAI could come up with a few more solutions how to use it? 6 most productive fruits and vegetables for beginners and the fastest growing fruits as well. We can invent magnetic footed robots and bend our atmosphere. So what do you think we could do with simple copper wires to increase agricultural yields? And the reason I wanted to talk about electroculture today, it is a synthesis of Victor Schallberger vortex principles as well as electrical principles from Nikola Tesla. Thank you for the book. Ryan gave me this one. Thanks. Welcome to the neighborhood, my friend. So combining these two, let's get to work on the agriculture for the year. I'm really interested in boosting yields with less fertilizer and using what they would call Antiquitech. It's been around since the 1700s. But first, let's start off with the basics right here. 6 most productive fruits and vegetables for beginners. So if it's your first year to ever grow anything, bush beans, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, yellow squash, and zucchini. Now, if you're looking for quickness, arugula, beet, carrot, lettuce, spinach, and spring radish. Now, remember the beets, you can also eat the leaves as they're growing. Carrots also. And the radish leaves make for a nice stir fry. Use every part of the plant while it's growing. Don't be limited in just waiting for the underground portion of the root crop to grow. That should be a nice start. Also, we're heading back to a pioneering lifestyle as we move forward with this reset and reduction of resources as well as supply chain constriction, bringing us back to something probably pioneering lifestyle 1860s-ish. So if you can find one of these beauties, covers your heating and your cooking. So let's take a moment of Zen and appreciate nature and the bounty of nature. It is so massive. Once you understand what a small plot of garden can provide for you, your mind will open and the Rubik's Cube of possibilities will be on your dinner plate. So let's start here with electroculture. We're hearing about the fertilizer shortages and supply chain breakdowns. What can we take beyond that's around us that does not need a supply chain to be delivered to our homes and our farms and our communities? Well, ethereal current running through the atmosphere would be one of those. And the newspaper headlines from articles early 1900s, huge crops with the aid of electricity. It sounds like you just push electricity in the crop like you're going to plug in something at your home. Completely different. Electroculture is a method of applying atmospheric electricity, increasing yields by anywhere from 1 to 3 times. It's stated that it eliminates the need for fertilizer and pesticides, and that's my interest in this, as well as larger veggies, but cutting inputs out of, which would also require time to apply to. So it's a win-win-win on all of those. This is where we start to get into induction coils and something that can easily and quickly, perpetually be connected to the ether and draw from that life force that surrounds the ground up 100 miles to the ionosphere. That current surrounds us at all times. This is what wireless power was all about with Nikola Tesla as well. And what you're trying to achieve is an increase in magnetism in the soils. Low levels of collagen show up in more ways than one, although sagging skin and wrinkles are the most common that come to mind. Did you know that your nails, hair, and joints can also be signs of low collagen levels as well? It's well known that collagen levels can decrease by up to a shocking 10% every decade after the age of 30. That's why supplementing your collagen is so important to looking and feeling our very best. One of the quickest ways to help combat low levels of collagen is to supplement a high-quality collagen supplement And there may not be a better choice than health-with-adapt2030.com, which uses 5 clinically important types of collagen to help provide your skin, hair, nails, and joints the nutrients they need. Look and feel your best this upcoming spring and summer season. Take 51% off your order. It includes some free bonuses, free VIP health coaching before the half-off sale ends. Go to health-with-adapt2030.com. Remember, you have 60 days to change your mind if you do. That link's in the description box below. That's health-with-adapt2030.com. And now on with the video. It can be achieved many different ways in different wines. Now, this is supposedly showing, if you're in the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, how you would wind your coil to get the energy to flow down the wires. The images are out there, and I encourage you to do an enormous amount of research, because yield differences like this just on the haricot beans, grown with manure on the left, grown with the Electroculture without manure on the right, magnificent, gigantic yields. Then you start to find there was an enormous amount of research done on this. Control is the bottom. Top left is Electroculture. Giant difference in the size there, and that's what we're looking at. A lot of solutions to take us out of the debacle that we currently sit in. And I'd heard about this years ago, and it's back on the radar heavily again. This is from General Magazine, July 1755, a machine for perpetual electrified gardens. So if it was working and done back then, pulling in the etheric current and sending it into the medium and substrate where the plants are growing with noticeable differences in yield, I wonder why we went away from that. And here's another one I found, similar to what looked like a Tesla coil, but the water would run through that and then be sprayed on the plants. Which brings us into Schauberger's principles. There's a lot of devices right now that you can plug in and buy, put on your hose, that has the vortex run and recharge the water before you put it on your plants, using nature's propulsion system called a vortex. Now, the brushes that you would want to use to try to draw in the current so remarkably look like chaffs of wheat standing in a field. Both right and the left images, we're looking at a rye or a wheat field, basically. So imagine if the wheat heads were copper, how much they would draw down into the soil. Just saying, they're not. But the center one is so interesting for me. Looks like modern antenna, but it receives as well. Signal pulled in for a different reason. And there's all these different patents and schematics on how to do large-scale agriculture with it, using magnets within rows within the soil. And it's really as simple as this: winding copper wire on a stick and putting it in your potted plant or putting it in your rows. Draw that natural energy field out of our atmosphere and put it back in to the ground. I'm going to be working with this little bit taller model, probably about 12 foot tall, with the antenna receiver coming down. I want to cover 225 square feet with each one of these. And as well, since we're putting out wine vines along our fence, I wanted to experiment with this as well. 6 meters, for those of you, is 18 feet tall. It pulls the etheric current down and sends it down the wire. Now, it's supposedly going to generate larger grapes, faster growth, and this is what we need. We want that fence covered and pushing grapes here by the end of the year. Early 1800s, experimenting with this as well. Very much looks like if you put a few more blades on that and allowed the wind to push it, something that we see in the modern day of a water pump, you would be energizing the water as well as using that torque force to get that pump to move and bring the water to the surface. Orientation's important. You're going to orient what I would call the rooster comb, where those wires are coming out in a line north-south. This is going to be for row crops, where you take that wire down and then underground along the rows where you're going to plant your crops, about 10 to 12 foot on the length of that. And also, since we do have a small orchard where some of the trees are struggling right now due to too much water and too much clay, a handful are diseased, so it's the same as pulling the etheric current down directly into the tree roots to repair a single tree. Now, I'm wondering if you could use the same pole and move that off to 2 or 3 or 4 trees around in a circular area. because nature follows sets of rules all based on vortex principles here. Schauberger, if you're going to set up a creek, you're using some of the same principles. If you're going to wrap wire around a stick or a pole, you're going to follow the same vortex principles on how flow of current would follow wires. So that's the thing. If it truly is this simple, and it doesn't require herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, this is such a game changer that you have to wonder through time, when there were famines, were there a select group of people who used this simple technology to increase yield as well as using almost zero input? This is a solution we would all need going forward. The copper wire that you would buy is going to cost less than, the umpteen bags of fertilizers and pest control and herbicide remediation to control fungus and blight and these sort of things. Just on a cost average, that spool of copper wiring is going to be a fraction of what you would spend overall for like that bevy of inputs into the regular garden or orchard. And as we have this supply chain constrict, I really believe it is going to just get cut off at the knees here. Like I said in the last video, 2020, 2021, and a good portion of 2022 was to remove small and medium-sized businesses from the planet, leaving the reliance only on big box stores. Well, since we've come to that point now where almost all of your needs are met by corporate America in the large, from the Costco's to the Walmarts, what else, the Sam's Club, and these, there's a lot more control already over that. But imagine if that whole supply chain and that whole access to food starts to diminish week by week, month by month, and you're only left with a certain amount of items. The eggs were a thing where there's limits on those. Over in the UK now it's tomatoes. Regular vegetables are being limited to per purchase. I've done a video on that this week as well. So it does seem that we're reaching the end of at least the organized delivery of products into the store on the foodstuffs side in the current way that the world had been set up. Hence the reset. If we're at the end of the current way, something else will have to be developed out of that way. Some people might call it the phoenix rising out of the ashes. We're not just going to gently move from this system that's been entrenched for almost 200 years into a brand new system without a huge amount of disruption. Huge amount of disruption. So that's where we sit currently. Now during this disruption, generally population numbers decline as well. There's a lot of population migration, economic upheaval, and the system of governance across the planet will change to move with the different energies of people's awareness as they change also. We've seen this through history for the last 4,000 years. We just sit here at another one. So what is it about this electroagriculture that has been, I wouldn't say hidden, the information's definitely out there, but why is it not more talked about even in gardening circles, the home gardeners, let alone big ag? But how much copper would be needed if big ag switches to this method? There's barely enough copper. That would take about 200 years to mine at today's present rate. Well, that was actually in 2019 when there was fully functional systems of supply chains and everything was a well-oiled machine down to the second on the delivery. It would still have taken 200 years in 2018-19 mining capabilities to do the switch over into the green economy that we're all moving to as well with the windmills, solar panels, battery-operated vehicles, etc. So put that in mind. Then there'd be a third need for that. So which would it be, agriculture or green energy? So I'm wondering, what solutions are out there? OpenAI and all these different industries are using this, and I'm wondering how we could use it to generate possibilities of using electroculture. Because we can find the technology and innovation to build robots with magnetic feet that walk up the sides of walls. What do you think we could do with a simple copper wire to increase productivity? This is the levels it's come to for monitoring. What about the levels growing And I'm wondering what this atmospheric anomaly is happening here. Was it a rocket launch? Was it something else hitting the atmosphere? Your guess is as good as mine. Atmospheric wave. Now let's harvest that. It's all about etheric electricity. Because we're going to need it. Self-sufficiency is the new in 2023. True Leaf Market, heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. Those of you interested in buying some seeds for this planting season, every purchase you make helps keep the Adapt 2030 channel on air. And every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, Ransom Godwin and myself cover issues like this 2 hours at a time. Rumble, the Adapt 2030 channel. We broadcast live from Revolution Radio, Mountain High Time YouTube channel, and the Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast YouTube channel, streaming live so you can interact with others of like minds in the comment sections. Join us there, spread the message, and invite some friends. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.